Hello and welcome to the Glitch Cube. We're a gaming podcast, and each week we take a deeper look into the art of video games. As always, I'm Christian.
And I'm Chris.
And welcome back, everybody, to another fun-filled, exciting, jam-packed, fist-flying, kung fu fighting episode as we dive further into the world of games. And this week we are going to be discussing, I'm sure you could have guessed it by that weird improv intro there, but we're going to be talking about fighting games, of course, with Evo just ended not too long ago for us as far as recording this. What it was last day was yesterday, I believe, 6th to 8th, something like that.
Yeah,
we wanted to discuss fighting games and just kind of reminisce on some of the titles that we played in the past, discuss ones that really spoke to us, and maybe talk a little bit about the history of fighting games and maybe a little tiny bit of the history of Evo itself. Because for those of you who don't know what Evo is, it is one of the largest fighting, or it is the largest fighting game convention in the world, it seems like, right? And longest running too. I mean, you know way more about Evo than I do. You actually were the one that told me about it. So do you want to give a little brief rundown of what Evo actually is and why that kind of inspired us to talk about this?
Yeah. It's honestly probably one of the only esports thing that I actually kind of watch when it happens. I guess you can consider speedrunning kind of it's something to watch, but other than that, I used to watch Counter-Strike esports, but fighting games for me have always been more interesting just because I feel like it takes skill.
Mm-hmm.
And the fighting game community is honestly probably one of the most welcoming communities I've seen in gaming, especially for a competitive scene. Which is saying something, right? Because we're so used to toxicity and, people just being nasty. And I'm pretty sure it still exists, nowhere is really perfect. But everyone I've met has always been super nice. But with Evo, it started in 1996, surprisingly. And from what I saw, the first Evo, I think said it had 40 people show up, from my understanding, which is kind of crazy because 96, arcades were big and stuff, but it's not like anything like this was really taking off. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of monumental, and it was in Sunnyvale, California. So pretty wild to think about, because I know that there was some kind of I think the only other tournaments I could really find online that were bigger were the Nintendo World Championships, where they would do those mini games where people would complete, where it'd be Super Mario Brothers, and then it would switch to a different game and then a different game, and it would be timed. But other than that, it was just more so really small games, or it'd be small events put on by local places. And that's kind of what Evo was in the beginning. But over the years, it just started getting bigger and bigger. And it started moving all around California. At one point, it was in Folsom. And then I remember 2002, it was moved to UCLA. And the reason why I noticed this was, and I'll get into this more later with the games, but I would see listings. I forgot what magazine it was back in the day. It wasn't EGM, but it was something. And it would always list game tournaments. And it would always be, fighting games, because back then or Quake at that point. Because I think Quake had something a little bit going on, but it was mostly fighting games. And I actually went to one. I was really young. I made my mom drive me up there, and we went, and it didn't do too bad. I would say out of 200 people, I was maybe 15th place.
Hey, that's not bad at all. Really
this wasn't Evo. This was some small little tournament, but it was one that was in the paper. I'll put it that way. So I was pretty happy about that. And that's when I learned that Evo was happening, in LA, right next, basically Santa Monica. But I never got to go, sadly. I always wanted to. And over the years till recently, it's always been in Las Vegas. I think at the Luxor. That Luxor always seems like the spot for esports anyway, but I think that's where it is. If not, it's just somewhere in Vegas. But yeah, it's basically the only gaming championship. And now, I think it was last year, they started where they're going to have not just the US branch, but they're going to branch it. So there's one in Europe or in Japan, and I think there's one in Europe. So they're starting like side ones, like side leagues for it, because it's so big. Like, it's probably one of the most massive ones. And surprisingly, Smash isn't there because Nintendo doesn't want it there. But could you imagine how
it would
big
be insane?
it would
That would
be?
be so
Yeah.
cool.
Like,
Well, I feel like if I remember correctly, Nintendo's classified Smash as a party game, not a fighting game.
yeah.
So they try and separate it out that way, but that's ridiculous. Like, we know what this is.
I read an article that came out maybe, I think, 3 days ago, and they partnered with some esports group to start hosting Smash Brothers stuff.
Ooh,
and to
fun.
form teams. And I'm wondering, like, is that like where it could get into Evo at some point, or if that's like, do they want to just do their own thing? Because I could see Nintendo just being like, let's have our own Smash World Championships, because it's
Nintendo.
Yeah, they like keeping their ecosystems like in control, which I get, but at the same time, it's really unfair to the players who, it'd be awesome to be a winner at Evo for a game that you really love. But I always love watching the matches. I watched the top 6 the day after the finish for Street Fighter 6, and it was good. It always makes me want to play those games, and I don't know, it's fun. It doesn't feel, I don't want to say fake. Like, when I used to watch a lot of like Counter-Strike, it always felt more of like an actual, like, almost like where it felt like a football game, right? Where it's like, here's watching this team. Oh, they're doing this. Like, the play-by-plays would get almost like ridiculous, which in the fighting ones, the announcers talk the whole damn time, but it really does feel like UFC or boxing on meth, right? Where it's just super fast paced. And I don't know, I love it. I love the energy, and it makes me want to play fighting games, which, inspired this episode because it's a genre that I really love. I really like it. And growing up, surprisingly, I played a lot of them. And I don't really know why, but I just did. And I think because I loved how the graphics looked of them. I was primarily a 2D fighting game player. I didn't really like 3D, but yeah, it just kind of sucked me in. But I never, after that little match I did in the early 2000s when I was a kid, I didn't really go to any other fighting game tournaments. I went to like some small little matches in the Southern California area, because I know like in Orange County, there's a lot with that esports arena. And I think there's some in San Diego, like small matches put on by clubs. But, and I found out there's some around me, which is kind of cool. But it's mostly Smash, which I like Smash, but I don't feel comfortable playing it around other people, because I bet you there's going to be like 20 kids half my age that'll kick my butt. But
well, with working with kids in a Smash Brothers league, I can tell you, 100%. Like, some of these kids are really scary, and their parents are even scarier, right? Like, we have sports dads in our esports league right now, and I'm like coaching elementary school level kids. And like, I've had parents coming in and being like, hey, sorry, my boy, he couldn't, practice that much this week. We got kind of busy. And I was like, it's fine. We're playing Smash Brothers, man. Like he'll get back into it. It's totally okay. So or like seeing some kids that have, you know, over 1,000 hours in Smash Brothers, and like you guys are nuts. You're like 9 years old. This is crazy. But it's pretty amazing to see, honestly. I love Smash Brothers.
That's actually kind of cool. And I kind of when I go into the games that I grew up with, I'll kind of get into because that now looking at them, like if there was a timer, I probably did put a lot of hours into some of them. But what's your, history of fighting games, or do you even like playing them?
I really enjoy playing them. I am horrible at them, except for Smash Brothers. Smash Brothers is the only one that like actually clicked for me for some reason, where the movesets made sense, the hitboxes I understand. Like I actually like took the time to watch videos and look at images and seeing hitboxes and all that stuff. Right? Like for some reason, Smash Brothers always clicked for me. But I've been playing it since the very first, N64 days. So it's been a long time playing this title when it's the same freaking game over and over again, right? But I mean, you can argue that with almost every fighting game. It's same combos, same this, just better graphics, new characters, and a lot more fun, right? Like that's basically what it boils down to. But I mean, I've always wanted to be good at fighter games. Like growing up, going to arcades, and you'd see like Street Fighter, or looking at the Tekken Tag arcade cabinet, like that giant beast of one, right? Like I loved the look of those things, but every time I played them, I just get destroyed. And I remember specifically with Tekken Tag Tournament, I picked that up and I'm like, I'm going to be really good at this game. Like I'm going to dedicate a lot of time to this. And I just couldn't. Like no matter how much I really went for it, I just sucked at that game.
Dude,
like,
Tekken's hard.
Tekken's really hard, but I don't know. Like, what's his name? Is it Yojimba? Yeah, like that. I wanted to be really good with that character and doing like the flea move where you're jumping on the sword, right? Like all that stuff. Like, I had this weird drive to be really good at these fighting games, and I just could never do it. But then when Smash Brothers came around, like I said, it just clicked and it stuck with me. And then I have such fond memories of playing on the GameCube with all my friends, and just like everyone coming over to my house every weekend and just playing Smash for hours on end. And I don't know, it felt good. Or like setting up little mini tournaments in the neighborhood with all the kids. And it was just a fun experience. There's something about it that I love the vibe of fighting games. And you're right, like the community in fighting game areas, like, yeah, it can be toxic sometimes, but I feel like out of all the possible esports communities, it is definitely the least toxic and like the least kind of intimidating to go into. Because really, when it boils down to it, like I have so many people that come in to the studio and like we're playing Smash Brothers and they say like, hey, like, do you want to try it out? Like, oh, I don't know how to play. And I've found out that like the easiest way to get people interested in even just trying it is just letting them know, well, there's a lot of buttons on the controller, I understand, but really you just need two. You just need B and A, right? Just press those and then we'll add on the rest, right? Like just know that if you press up, you jump, and you press B and A to do big and heavy move or big and light moves. That's it, right? And like everyone from elderly to kids to like businessmen in full on suits come in and they have a fun time playing it. Like there's something about fighting games that are just really inviting. They're very fun. It's just quick, easy. And I think it also has to do with like the timing of it, right? It's just a couple minutes. So like for people who aren't gamers, they can get a quick fix and be like, oh yeah, this is really enjoyable. I get it. But then for those who want to be really good at the game, they can do that too, right? There's a lot to study, a lot to look into, learn encounters, just like you would in any other like combative sport, right? Like we did the same thing in wrestling, where if someone's doing one move, you learn how to do a different kind of counter and like all that kind of stuff, right? And it's the same exact thing with a fighter game. You just have to learn your opponent, learn what kind of style they have, because everyone, even though it's the same movesets, everyone has a different way of deploying things. So there's something really amazing about them that I really, really love. And I can't get enough of them. I keep trying them. And there's a couple out there that I've like weirdly been like, okay, this is going to be my new game. But then it's just never really like worked out for me. Like Marvel vs. Capcom.
Oh man,
I love the concept of that game. I love playing it. It was so much fun. But you put an opponent in front of me and I lose every damn match. Like, I cannot win in that game. And I just don't really, there's so much going on, but I love the idea behind the game. I love the look of it, just how everything feels and just how cool all the movesets are. Like, I absolutely love that game, but I just can't play it. I suck at fighting games. And maybe that's going to be like this year's thing is I'm just going to, because I've been looking for a new game to play, I'm just going to pick up another fighting game and just be like, yep, I'm just going to dedicate some time to this right now. I don't know, maybe it'll be Street Fighter, maybe it'll be Dragon Ball Z or Dragon Ball Fighters Z, right? Because that's a fun game too. I don't know if you tried that one. That one's really fun.
I do like it. I'll definitely recommend Street Fighter 6 later when I bring up like the different controls, because I played a little bit of it, but man, it's good.
Yeah. What was your first fighting game? Do you remember what the first one you ever played was?
So I feel like I had played it at the Tilt Arcade when I was a kid at the mall. I think it was Street Fighter 2, but the first fighting game I played at home was Clay Fighter.
Hell yeah. That's a classic.
I remember a Blockbuster, and for people that were too young to know this, especially a Blockbuster, sometimes there'd be things exclusive to Blockbuster. And I know the N64 version later on was exclusive to Blockbuster, and that's why it became one of the more expensive games on the N64. But the Super Nintendo one, the first one, was my first foray into the fighting game world. And, you know, it's not a perfect game. It's slightly problematic nowadays, but it was interesting. You know, as a kid, it was goofy. It didn't make any sense. I loved claymation animation kind of stuff growing up. So this just kind of tickled all those little itches, you know, and the characters were kind of ugly. And it was interesting. It was weird, though, because every time I booted up, something about it made me feel kind of uncomfortable, too. And I don't know what it is, but something about it, like that angry snowman, just like made me feel so like disgusted. I don't know why, you know, but then you got like Helga, like the big Viking lady, and it's like,
there's a lot of weird things to this game. And this was during the time whenever like there was a lot of stuff that was wrapped in a package that looked like it was for kids, but it really wasn't. And this definitely was one of those things, right? Like this is like Dark Crystal times and stuff like that, right? Like where your parents would just get you these games because it looks like, oh, look, there's a snowman and there's like a Play-Doh guy and everything's really like Technicolor and really cool looking. And then, but if you really like pay attention to what's going on, it's like, oh, this is not a kid's game, right? Like this is not for everybody. And it was deceiving back then too, because I mean, it being a Nintendo product, Nintendo is notorious for being family friendly gaming. And this was it was like right on the edge, right, of being not okay. Like I'm pretty surprised that Nintendo is the one that put this out.
Or I mean, like, they put out Mortal Kombat too.
Yeah, but they got rid of the blood, right? Like that's the no blood version.
True.
Yeah. So I mean, you could tell it was them just trying to like keep up and try and figure it out. But it is such an interesting title. I really recommend people like at least just looking at this if you have no idea what Clay Fighter is, because this is like classic fighting games for at least our age, you know, people, right? Like this is something that I bet if you went up to anyone that was around our age and mentioned Clay Fighter, they'd be like, "Oh yeah, I played that. I rented that from Blockbuster," right? Like that,
or at least
just brings back like
it's
some weird nostalgia. Yeah,
just the cover, everything about it is just weird. You know, it's like one of those games that you would hear about and you'd be like, "That's kind of weird," but So I mean, that was my first jump into that kind of style. And then I think after that, I kind of got more into fighters on the next generation, right? The N64, the PlayStation 1. That's kind of where I got into the games. Obviously, Smash. I loved it. Something I'll bring up before I get into all these games. When I was a kid, back then when it's not like you could buy a game all the time because they were pretty expensive, you would make do with what you got for a while. And I would take these fighting games and create my own stories with them, right? Like I would pick, like, say, Fox. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to challenge Mario. He's on a journey to this planet. And Mario is like this tyrant on the planet. I would create these scenarios with characters. And this went through every kind of fighting game. And it was awesome. It made me really enjoy playing those games because I would just create my own stories with characters. And like the original Smash on the N64, oh my God, I played that religiously for a long time just because it was cool beating up Pikachu. Not to be mean, but I'm like,
why don't they have that on the Virtual Console yet? It makes no sense.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have Pokemon either, so they're putting the Pokemon trading card game, which is great. Don't get me wrong. I loved that game as a kid too, but yeah, it's kind of
I mean, they just added Coliseum and Coliseum 2, but like, where's their Smash Brothers, man? I mean, they have Ocarina of Time, they have Majora's Mask, but where they got Star Fox? Where's Smash?
I feel like it'd be something that they would try to like re-release as like a Smash Brothers collection.
That I could see. I could see them trying to make money off of it rather than just making a Virtual Console. But I mean, they could have done that with Majora's Mask too, right? So it's kind of weird which ones they pick.
I feel like they milked Majora's Mask before, though, with the 3DS version. I feel like if they're gonna do a Smash, I bet you they'll do like a Smash collection, right? The N64 and the GameCube version, and it'll have online play. Like, I bet you the reason why they haven't dropped them yet is because they want to figure out a way to make it have perfect internet. Maybe have like rollback too.
That would be awesome.
But it's Nintendo. We'll probably see that in 10 years. But
yeah,
it'd be cool because I really like Smash 64 a lot. And I think that was really the only fighting game I played on the N64. Because there were a couple, but compared to the PlayStation 1, and that's really where I got into this genre with Capcom, right? I mean, Capcom always makes great fighters. Street Fighter, all of that. But it wasn't so much Street Fighter that I got into. I don't know why, but Street Fighter always felt to me, it felt almost too advanced for me in a weird way. I don't know why, because I'm playing other Capcom fighters, which feel similar. But for me, my favorite probably was the original Marvel vs. Capcom. I played it a lot. I definitely didn't play it as much as the sequel, but that was the game that got me into this genre, where I was like, ooh, I want to see more. I want to explore more. Like, it was cool playing as all these Capcom characters that, I'd never seen before. And granted, the first game didn't have many players to choose from, but I was just invested in it. And I remember even getting like a little fight stick, and I was like, I feel so professional. I feel so cool. Like, it was so much fun playing like that, in between buying like RPGs, right, I would be like, oh, I'm going to get at this fighting game. Because the thing that I loved about that era was, with Squaresoft, their PlayStation 1 games always had this like frosted kind of cover where it was always kind of white. Well, Capcom did that with their fighting games too, where it was always like this white border with the image in the middle. And I love that. I don't know why I was such a sucker for that kind of branding as a kid, but it just worked. And so after playing Marvel vs. Capcom, I started jumping into like Darkstalkers, which, was cool because as a kid, I was like, ooh, boobs. Like, I'm not going to lie. It had boobs and I liked it. And it was cool because it was all like vampires and succubus and all that kind of stuff. And it was cool. But then I started experimenting with their 3D fighting games because this is kind of when it all started, right? You know, you start getting your polygonal gaming. And it's weird because I feel like I've played more not as known fighting games as some other people have. Like when I talk about the PlayStation, most people talk about like Tekken when it comes to 3D. But my first one was actually one of the first Capcom polygonal game, which was Star Gladiator. And it was the first polygonal gaming in arcades, you know, obviously their first that they did. And originally the game was supposed to be a Star Wars game, which is why the main character has like a plasma sword or a lightsaber. And that's what sold me on this game. I remember seeing the cover and I was like, whoa, he's got a lightsaber. Like, that looks so cool. So I ended up getting it. And I still have my copy. And I, you know, it's basic. It's it uses that Soul Calibur 4-button style versus, you know, the more Street Fighter style of fighting. So it was a little different. It was a little slower paced, a little more chunky, which makes sense for being a very early 3D fighting game. But that game set me up for a game that I surprisingly got really, really into. And to this day, I wish that Capcom would do something with it because I don't think they've even re-released it anywhere, unless that Capcom Fighting collection brought it back. I didn't check, but Rival Schools. And
it's that one.
I learned about this game because a character from it was in Marvel vs. Capcom. And it's interesting because the US version is a lot of content was cut that made it stand unique. But basically it was like you're in a school and it's kind of like different schools fight each other, right? Like different championships and stuff.
Oh, I do remember this one. Yeah.
It has a very memorable cover too.
I remember playing this in the arcades, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember hearing that they had arcade cabinets, but I don't think I ever saw them. But it had cutscenes, which was cool. And they were like actually good cutscenes. And something about the fighting in this game just felt so good for like a PlayStation 1 game, especially. But what I didn't know was, so in the US version, it comes with a second disc called the Evolution disc. And basically, it had mini games on it that were not fighting. And it had like a movie gallery where you can watch cutscenes, stuff like that. But in the Japanese version, it actually had like a life sim in it where you create your character and you can go around the school talking to different characters, doing dialogue choices, doing battles. And if you're successful in all of it, you can power up your special moves. And it was like a totally different game. But because there would have been too much to translate, it never came over here. But, you know, since then I've watched gameplay of it and I'm like, damn, like it was pretty advanced for that time. You know, adding that whole new system to that game, like that wasn't even like a Street Fighter. You know, like Capcom was very experimental with their fighting games in that era. And I feel like almost every fighting game they put out was just amazing. The X-Men game, like it was good eating. But, you know, when you brought up Tekken, I was like trying to think like, have I ever gotten the Tekken? But I think Tekken just scares me.
It's tough. It's a tough game for sure. But I mean, I had to go with King. I mean, whenever I saw King, I was like, hell yeah. I was like, hell yeah, dude. Well, it's the Catman and it's a luchador. I'm like, yeah, that's the best of both worlds right there. I mean, like, how can you say no? It's so badass. Hell yeah, dude. And the best movesets, everything. Like, it was just amazing to watch and just so much fun. And what I think is really funny is that with fighting games, they actually put a story behind these things, right? So like you see the evolution of the characters, where you start getting like mecha people. And like as a kid, you know, we don't really pay attention to the story. Right? We're blasting through cutscenes, we're doing all this, and then all of a sudden, like a mechanized version of a person that you've been playing or using as, right? Like just shows up, and you're like, "What the hell happened?" But you just kind of accept it. You're like, "Yeah, whatever. Keep fighting." It's the same movesets, but now he has like missiles. That's cool. Like, just keep it going. Who cares? And that's basically what Tekken was for me. Like I know there's a story. I don't know any single bit of it. I just know that, you know, the Jaguar dude's rad, King is amazing, and then there's some weird crap in the game. Like you can be a bear. I don't know where the bear came from, but the bear's cool.
God. Anybody out there that's curious about this, like just YouTube like Tekken ending scenes, and like each character has their own ending cinematic, and some of them are just insane. Like
yeah,
to the point where it's like, what the hell is this? Like it makes no sense. Like some of them are so obscure,
it's pure
and
absurdity.
weird.
Yeah. It's God, it's such a classic. I love it. But yeah, Tekken Tag Tournament was definitely the one that I like dove into the most. I played Tekken 2 as well. Those were great games. And you know, like as far as like the single player part goes, yeah, I blasted through those like no problem. I felt so good. And then I challenged somebody and like I said, get my ass kicked. But whatever, man. Like, it was fun. It's just like a good goofy time frame for it. But yeah, there's so many good ones, you know, and we haven't even touched on this one yet, but it was actually my first fighting game ever was Mortal Kombat. That was actually my first fighting game, and I played it at I think it was my godfather's house, and I loved it. Like learning the uppercut off of the bridge so that they fall into the spikes and all that. I was like, hell yeah. And like that's where my weird obsession with like Scorpion came in. Like Scorpion is my favorite character by far. I love that character. And whenever I found out about like all the stupid fatalities that got added in, I was like, oh, this is amazing. Like the kid me was loving it. And then I think I remember my uncle picked it up, but it was the Nintendo version. And I'm playing it and I'm like, oh, this sucks. Like the little kid me, I was like, where's the blood? This is boring. And then like to make it fun, I learned like the baby fatalities and all that stupid stuff, right? Like, but what was fun about that was that all of those things were like hidden back then, right? Like finding it was part of the journey because we didn't have the internet to just watch a YouTube video real quick to give us all like the secret endings and how to do these moves, right? Like it was all through word of mouth, and or you have to find it in like a magazine, and like you run home and try it real quick and you're like, oh my God, I turned you into a baby. That's stupid. Or like my favorite ones were like the friendship ones, right? Where it's like, oh, I made you a balloon animal and it just says friendship across the screen. I'm like, why is this here? You know, like there's so much dumb things in Mortal Kombat, but like, of course, now Mortal Kombat takes itself more seriously. And actually, I don't know if you knew this, but like, I guess Mortal Kombat got some backlash a little bit at one point because it was trying. No, well, it was trying to interject like story into there, and it was getting called out for trying too hard to be like a justice fighter, because like at one point Jax, I guess, goes back in time to try and stop the transatlantic slave trade and to like stop the original developers of Mortal Kombat from making the female characters look too sexy. Like that was supposedly in like a Mortal Kombat game. And every Mortal Kombat fan was like, what is this? Like, why is this in this game? Right? Like you're defeating the whole purpose of everything that this has to offer. But, you know, like there's just something great about that title, and just how much controversy it's sparked over the years is pretty amazing. And the fact that it's still running, I'm surprised. I'm not gonna lie, right? Like because every time we would do research on like ESRB and like finding out like just all these little like psychological things for over the years of doing this podcast, and how like the government's gotten involved in a lot of this stuff, like Mortal Kombat would come up a lot, right? And it was always in those conversations. So like the fact that it's still like alive and still going is pretty amazing, right? Because of how many hurdles it had to jump through just to allow people to play their title or just to keep it how they want the game to be played. So it's pretty phenomenal. And, real quick, just like diving into some of the history of this stuff. I mean, fighting games have been around for a long time, and they definitely have come a long, long way. But the formula has always been the same, right? It's a short time frame. It's fun combos to learn and figure out with your friends. And it's starting out in basic like arcade cabinets. And they've experimented so much where like some early ones in like the 70s and early 80s actually had like gloves that you would wear, and you would have to like do pressure in the gloves would do different moves. Obviously, that like flopped, right? Because that's back then
Weird.
the technology
Yeah.
just wasn't there, and it's weird, like you said, and like it just didn't feel right. But then when certain games started coming out with like twin stick controls and stuff like that, like that's when it started really making sense and kind of blowing up. And then with like the explosion of things like the Apple II, right? Then bringing consoles home where you have your arcade home, like it really made it a family thing. And I can't tell you how many times my family has sat there and just played fighting games and or like used it as like ways to solve arguments at some points with my cousins, right? Like it's such a weird thing. And that like something so, I mean, it's violent, right? Like the whole point is to be violent. That's a fighting game right there, right? But back when we were kids, that was like okay. And even to this day, like I'm watching parents watch their kids play these games, and like they'll talk about other titles and being like, "Oh, that's a little too much for them." But then they'll let them play like fighting games. I'm like, "Yeah, he just uppercutted that dude so hard his spine came out." Like, this is okay. But like it's almost like fighting games get like a strange pass, right? Like it's okay to be insanely violent, like, and it's almost just expected at this time. And it's really weird, and some games take full advantage of that, right? Like they go very, very heavy with the gore and with a lot, with Mortal Kombat especially. But then you have titles like Primal Rage, right? Primal Rage is just straight up a bloody mess, right? Where you're fighting these monsters, and there's actually like people, like normal human-sized people that are like way smaller than you, running across the screen while these giants, like think like T-Rex versus like King Kong, right? Like going at it, and then you can straight up just like squish people in the background while you're fighting, right? Like it's like, okay, this is a lot to deal with. It's a lot going on. And this was a game I remember playing as a kid. And I remember my mom renting this for me. And it just is like, oh, yeah, well, it's a fighting game. Like, she watched me play it and it's like, oh, it's a fighting game. But, like, the screen ends up getting all bloody. Like, even your health bar. So, the health bar in Primal Rage is literally a heart, right? So you have a heart and a brain that are right there. I think the brain was like stunned or something like that, and your heart is your actual health. And it has like a long like vein sticking out, and that's like to symbolize the actual health itself. But every time you get hit, your heart beats, right? Like you see it like jiggle. And whenever you beat somebody, the heart actually freaking explodes. And just a bloody mess in the corner of the screen. And your character is left all like stunned in there, right? Like, or if your brain gets like stunned, like you see the brain like deflate and looks like all nasty and stuff, and they're like stunned for a while. Like there's a lot of weird crap in this game that you're just like, okay, this is a very hyper violent game, but because it's a fighting game, it's almost like I said, it gets total free pass. Like it's okay. It's okay to do these things, right? And I feel like every franchise out there has attempted at least one fighting game at some point, right? Like, and like for better or worse, right? Like there's some really bad fighting games out there. Like for instance, the Star Wars fighting game, right? Like when you brought up the Star Wars engine and like how one game was supposed to be a Star Wars one, in my head I was like, wait, wasn't there a Star Wars fighting game? And then I was like, wait, why aren't there more Star Wars fighting games?
Oh.
And I think it's because of how bad, and it's called Star Wars Masters of Terras Kasi. how bad that game was, it made it so that there will never be a Star Wars fighting game in the future. Like, it was not good. It is a very horrible game. It's known as one of the worst fighting games out there. But there's a actual fighting game there's another fighting game at least that has the title of worst fighting game ever.
Shaq Fu.
Oh yeah, you already knew. You already knew what it was.
I was when you were bringing up like weird, like Primal Rage, and like when we were talking about Clay Fighter, I was like, man, Shaq Fu was like another oddball. That was just. I remember a friend, and it's funny because later on, this friend would also end up getting that Star Wars game. So I mean, he had shit taste. That's why I'm not friends with him anymore. Plus, we were kids, but he had this game, and I was like, what is this? Like, everyone knew Shaq. I mean, he was one of the big people when we were kids. And, oh, my God, this game was awful. There was no way you could save this game.
No,
it's like not awkward. Even in the funny way either.
No, because Shaq Fu was actually trying to be serious. It wasn't trying to be a joke. And I think that's the major downfall. Like, come on, they had to have known that this is not gonna be taken seriously. Like, there's no way it is, right? Like, it's pretty bad. Like, they have Shaq with like magic and fighting all these weird like things. There's even like demons and shit.
Like, it sounds cool.
I mean, like, even Shaq does a Rasengan from like Naruto. Like, that's one of his special moves, is he straight up does a wind style Sharingan and throws it at the people, like, before Naruto even did it, right? Like, they stole it from Shaq Fu. And there's actually a character, I forgot what the character was. She's like a voodoo like witch thing, right? Like, it's kind of problematic, this game, actually, looking at some of these characters. But if she beats Shaq, she actually pulls out like a voodoo doll and stabs it, and then Shaq falls down.
Oh my God.
Yeah, like, but it's just not good at all. And like, there's a lot of glitches in it. Like, actually looking at some of these glitches that people are running into, where the enemy can actually fight you or hit you before it even says fight on the screen, right? Like they're starting animations before you can even have control over your character. And then it going to like weird demon realms and stuff. Like, this game is confusing as all hell. Like, I don't know what the goal was here or what this was supposed to be. And maybe if it wasn't Shaq and it was just like a character, right? Like a made up character, it would be okay. But yeah, this was doomed on arrival. There was no way Shaq Fu was going to make it.
When you were bringing up Mortal Kombat, it's interesting because I remember playing it, but I feel like it's one of the few major fighting game franchises I never really ended up playing much of, even though like you would think I'd be all over it because of the fatalities. But for some reason,
the movies are amazing. So how can you not get into it?
I know, right?
Well, the first one at least is really good. The first one's good.
I think it was just because the characters looked kind of realistic. I was like, I like my animated looking Street Fighter stuff. But I love the fatalities to it. I remember watching a friend play it and I was like, oh, this is really cool. But it just always felt a little stiff to me. And I think that's the whole reason why I never got into Mortal Kombat, was it just always felt kind of stiff. In less of a heavy, stiff way that Tekken does. It just, I don't know. Seeing the new Mortal Kombat that's coming out makes me kind of want to try the new one because it looks amazing. But I don't know. I think I'm just going to stick with Street Fighter.
It's almost similar to, I would say, like Resident Evil tank controls, right? Like, when you go and try and do a move, your character completely stopped, right? Like, it lost all forward momentum. So it was a little confusing at first. So I totally understand like the heaviness that you're talking about. But yeah, it's a weird one.
But I got my gore fill with so this is a game that ended up not coming out. It ended up, you could get it bootlegged and stuff because it was deemed too violent at the time. And it would have been one of the first adult rated games ever. on a console, Thrill Kill, and
Mm.
it basically the mechanics behind it would end up becoming like the Wu-Tang game. But originally it was basically a game where, you could be a man with whips for hands, or you could be like a dominatrix. And it
Oh
was
yeah, you
very
just
like,
found this one recently, didn't you? Or like not too long ago?
so I had played a bootleg of it a long time ago, but I ended up like finding someone that makes them make, puts in a nice little package to look like an original PlayStation game. And I was like, oh, I'll pick it up.
Mm.
And I booted it up recently again. Yeah. And it's, it's still the same old gore. Like it has its little own version of fatalities, and it's pretty violent. Like it makes sense why it did not come out, because back then it probably would have been a little extreme for what people were into.
It looks like
But
what a Hellraiser would be if it was a fighting game.
yeah, that's a really good point. If Hellraiser and Saw were a fighting game mashup, that would be it.
Yeah, there's
But
some weird, inappropriate characters in this game, actually, now looking at it.
But, that brings up a whole different kind of fighting style. And I mean, the genre is massive, right? In a sense that, I mean, some people classify even beat 'em ups, right? The side scrolling ones like,
Mm-hmm.
River City Ransom, stuff like that, as a fighting game, which, I mean, technically it kind of is in a little bit. But also these isometric kind of fighting games.
Mm-hmm.
Like Power Stone. I loved Power Stone. Like, to the point where if it came back, I would drop everything and probably devote myself to trying to get good at it, because I loved it so much on the Dreamcast. And to me, it felt like what Smash Brothers should have evolved to.
Mm.
Because it was just cool running around the stage, picking up items, using them, and it just worked in such a good way. And I was like, oh man, like I love these kind of brawling fighting games. Like it was cool, and we don't really see many of those. I mean, nowadays we do with indie titles, but back then you did not see that.
Mm-hmm.
And that made me realize, like, I love some of these one-off fighting games, right? Like the Def Jam games were friggin' cool too. You could
Those
be
are
a
actually
rapper.
really hard games, too.
Yeah, and they were good. I can't say it for Icon, but, Fight for New York and stuff. Like, those games were cool. Like,
Yo, the Wu-Tang game is fucking brutal.
oh, God.
I didn't realize how brutal it was. Every time you finish somebody, you just knock them over and just rip their head off. There's like blood's pouring out. Or some characters, you punch them so hard, their body parts just explode off of them. Like, this is a brutal ass game. I did not know the Wu-Tang game was that bad.
That's what I love about some of those fighting games, because they were just, like, unnecessarily violent.
Yeah.
It was a change of pace from the fighting games I was used to. Because around that time, that's when I was really in the Marvel vs. Capcom 2, which was like, if there was a game where I devoted hundreds of hours to play and get good at, it was that. And I haven't played it in a long time, so I wouldn't feel comfortable like going out and playing it. But that was the game I went for that tournament thing for, because I was actually like really good at it in a way. Like, I had my comp that I loved using, and the roster is massive. I think it's like 52 characters, or I think even, no, it's gotta be more than that. But
what was your go-to? I'm curious.
It was Cable, BB Hood, and I would kind of switch it up. Sometimes it'd be Jaggernaut, or oh god, who was the other? It was the guy from Star Gladiators. It starts with an H. I'm trying to think his name. But
I was more of a
BB Hood was
Spider-Man,
always
Wolverine, and Strider guy.
Ooh, Wolverine was another one I would kind of switch out. Like, my always ones I would pick would be Cable and BB Hood. and then I would usually switch it out.
Mm.
Spider-Man was cool,
Yeah,
but
he's fun.
fuck, Wolverine was just you could dominate with that.
Oh yeah, his combos were ridiculous. You can just pin people to the side and just own, and yeah, he was too fast, and his range was actually really good, right? Like he had moves that basically covered like the whole screen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
War Machine was another one I would switch out to because he had that big beam for a special. Yeah, I really, really love that game, and a part of me like thinks, oh, I should just play it again. Relive my memories because it was good. I loved the Dreamcast because it really felt like I was playing an arcade.
Mm-hmm.
But that was really the last fighting game that I got into. There were times where I tried other fighting games afterwards to get into, like my wife was really into the Dead or Alive games, and I played them for a bit, but I just couldn't get into them for some reason.
You
Same
just
with
wanted to play the volleyball ones. That's
yeah,
okay.
dude, those are actually not bad games. You laugh, but they're not bad. And she likes Soul Calibur. And
hell yeah, the Soul Calibur on the GameCube is the best one. You could play as Link. What?
That's something I loved, how each platform had their own special character. And
yeah, I wanted Spawn so bad, but I just never got that one.
Yeah, that one was cool too. And it was cool because you could play with weapons. And that was the thing that always kind of bummed me out in fighting games, is that you didn't really have characters that had weapons. Sometimes in Marvel vs. Capcom or those games, they'd have like, their sword or something, but it was never like impactful like Soul Calibur.
Right.
But yeah, 2, oh man, 2 was the shit.
Yeah, that was a fun game. That was a lot of fun.
I do have a question. This probably be the last one because I'm like almost drawing a blank of any other fighting games that are not like Guilty Gear, because there's a lot of those 2D ones I've always appreciated but never got into because
like King of Fighters and all that
King
stuff.
of Fighters and Guilty Gear always seemed like a little more advanced. BlazBlue, Grand Blue Fantasy, freaking Skullgirls,
so many.
like all of even the smaller like indie ones. Like I like Dive Kick, that one was cool, but
that's a fun one. I like how simple it is. It's just dive and kick, man. It's fun.
Yeah, but these were, I guess it's a franchise in general. I do have some experience with it, but not the good ones. But when you brought up Dragon Ball Fighter Z, I do really, really like that game. I love how cinematic it is. And it reminds me of how much I really hated my first Dragon Ball fighting game. And it's an odd one. It was Dragon Ball GT Final Bout on the original PlayStation.
Yes.
And I remember
that game's amazing.
Getting into the game, like GameStop had it behind their counter and they're like, oh, this is one of the rarest games for the PlayStation, or one of the rare ones. And they were like charging like a little more than average for it. And I like begged my mom. I'm like, please, I need this. I need it. And so I was really in the Dragon Ball all the time. I feel like it was during the Frieza saga. But picked it up, went home, played it. And while it was kind of cool, I didn't like it.
It's garbage.
Yeah, I was like,
it's really bad.
And this was like still kind of where the internet wasn't the easiest thing to look around on for this kind of stuff. But later on, I found out, people really didn't like this game either. But it was Dragon Ball, and I was hungry. I didn't play that Ultimate 22, which is that terrible 2D one that was on the PlayStation, but
I played Budokai a lot. But that was later.
That's kind of what I was going into. Is I remember playing Budokai at a friend's house and really liking it, but I never actually owned them, and I was always curious. Like, I know people do like those games, but like, were they like actually really good? Or
those the Budokai games are actually really, really fun. Like those are great games, and it's if you like Fighters Z, I mean, as far as like the traversing, there's much more of it. So it's basically Fighter Z, but like with an extra plane, right? So you can like move around and do all that good stuff. it's a lot of fun. I really do enjoy my time with those, and it was just great. I mean, it's Dragon Ball, right? So like, it's always going to be fantastic. And I was talking about GT Final Bout too. Like, bad game, like really really bad game, where
I was
it almost
so bummed.
it almost felt like a turn-based fighting game. Like, there's so much time where it's just like the person's just standing there. They can move.
It was so slow.
It
Yeah.
was so bad. But and like the animations and stuff like that, and like Frieza's tail was just like 6 capsules stuck together. Like it was just really bad looking. But no, like Budokai was fantastic. I don't know, everything about it, like the visuals were really great. I feel like it was the first Dragon Ball game that actually, like, the characters looked really really good. Because of like, the cell shading and everything. The actual like gameplay itself was really intuitive. At first, it was a little like, I don't know, because it was the first time I ever played a fighting game in that style, where you can fly around and all that, right? Like the arena is
it had flying back
big.
then too.
Oh yeah. So like, it's a trippy game, but it was really interesting. Yeah, I definitely recommend checking it out. I don't know, I would love to try it again, see if it still holds up.
Yeah, I definitely want to play more Fighter Z too, because I remember there's been a few times you brought it up, and I'm like, I enjoyed what I played of it.
Yeah, it's one of those that I definitely want to get more into. I have some, like, there's some kids that have been like asking to play it. I'm like, I really need to just dive into it some more. But yeah. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for us this week. Hope you guys enjoyed our little dive here into fighting games. There's so many in this genre, and there's so many in the genre. It's really hard to just like condense it down to one episode, honestly, and just where it's come from, how long it's been around. It's one of the oldest like genres in video games, and it's amazing. It's a perfect intro to any gamer or non-gamer. Just anybody can have fun with this. It's great. And every fighting game, you know, while they are different, they have different mechanics and stuff like that. Like, any one of them you can just jump into and just have some fun with it. So it's great. So go out there and pick up a fighting game, celebrate Evo, and have fun with it. Right? Like, let's enjoy our time with these guys. But anyway, we'll talk to you guys next week with some more wonderful games that we've found scourged through online, the internet, everything, our lives, memories, nostalgia, all that good stuff. But until then, bye for now.